Connecting to data inside Power BI can be done in two ways. First way is to import a copy of the data inside Power BI, and the second option is to connect directly to the data source using DirectQuery. To give you a better idea how these two work, I will connect to a SQL server that lives locally on my machine. So I'm going to go to Get Data, and then I'm going to choose SQL Server. I will connect to the SQL server. Inside the server name, I will type in localhost, because this is the location of the server that lives on my local machine. And as we can see, on the data connectivity mode, we've got import and we've also got DirectQuery. Now, import is the default option in Power BI. Let's click and see what happens. Once we click OK. So here it is. We've got all these different databases that lives locally on my machine. If we expand AdventureWorks Data Warehouse 2014, we get to see all the data, all the tables, get to see the preview window to the right, similar to what we saw in our previous lesson with the Excel source. So as you can see, we get to choose the tables that would appear in our data model. When we create visualizations and reports, Power BI uses the imported data. So whether we choose dim customer or dim date or dim employee or any table we choose, it will get imported directly into the model. So which means the data will be grabbed from the database and it will be loaded inside our Power BI model. So that's why our model will grow as we add more data using the import mode. So the more data gets loaded inside the server and the dashboard gets refreshed, the bigger the Power BI file would get. So it's almost like a sponge. It absorbs all this data in as soon as we hit refresh. And this is why it's called the import mode, because we are importing data from a database inside our Power BI model. To demonstrate how DirectQuery works, I'm going to close that and I'm going to get data again. So we're going to go to Get Data, SQL Server, and let's investigate DirectQuery. Again, I'm going to type in localhost. I'm going to change the data connectivity mode to DirectQuery this time. I'm going to press OK, and let's see if anything changes visually first. So as you can see, we've got the navigator. We can expand all these different databases. We can click on any table. We still get to see our preview. And it looks very, very similar to what we have in import mode. Well, there is quite a difference between import mode and DirectQuery. So with DirectQuery, as we create the dashboards and visualizations, Power BI queries the underlying data source. So which means the data source is always up to date. Unlike the import mode where we have to hit refresh if we want to refresh the data. With the DirectQuery, there is no need to refresh the data because we have connected directly. So we're connected live to the live data source. Now, DirectQuery limits some of the data modeling and transformation options, such as DAX functions. Not all DAX functions are available inside the DirectQuery purely because of the way it's been designed to work. When working with the DirectQuery connection, the underlying source must be queried, and the time necessary to refresh the visualization is dependent on the performance of the data source. So if our data source is performing well, the visualizations and the data would get refreshed a lot quicker, so which means we'll grab the data a lot quicker. DirectQuery is designed for very large data sets that exceed 1 GB. So if our data is less than 1 GB, there is no need for us to use DirectQuery purely because the import mode will do a sufficient job. It will also give us the full functionality of DAX. So if you're working with massive amounts of data, then DirectQuery is the way to go. If your data is less than that, you might as well just stick to import mode and use the full DAX capabilities inside your reports.